we used to make, as the name suggests, plotting the libraries or plot any data that you have. Now, as you know, uh, grasping information from the data is easier when it's in visual format as compared to when it's in numerical format. So what we can do, we can get the data and just visualize it into a graphical format in shapes like what, pie chart or bar chart or scatter plots, different plots which will give you insights of what the data suggests or what the data is, instead of just going through each and every digit or each and every number which is present. Can you zoom in, please? Okay, bro. Sorry, I forgot to zoom in. Did it? Okay, cool. So for that, we have this matplotlib library. Now, there are basically two libraries, two basic libraries which we use for data visualization, which is matplotlib and seaborn. So today we'll learn about matplotlib. Tomorrow we're going to see about seaborn. And when you learn about seaborn, you'll probably think that knowing about matplotlib is not even important, because most of the thing that you're going to do is with seaborn only. It's going to be like all the things that you can do with matplotlib is possible in seaborn, and seaborn has more extra features also. But just to know how like seaborn works, we should also know like how matplotlib works. So matplotlib is a plotting library for the Python programming languages, and it's an extension of NumPy. So matplotlib is basically built on the top of NumPy. So it's provide an object-oriented API for embedding plots into applications, and we can also use this library for different GUI toolkits like Tengta, Qt or GTK. These are all our program. These are the packages for making a GUI. So we can also implement this matplotlib libraries into our Python GUIs. Okay. So as simple, if you want to import the library, what you have to write? Matplotlib. Now in that matplotlib, we're using a proper folder. Till now I have shown you like NumPy and pandas. You just write import NumPy as NP, import pandas as PD. Now we can do one more thing. Like we have a package, but instead of calling the whole package, we know like which exact, like inside a package you'll get more sub packages. So if we know that inside a package which sub package we want, we can specify that also with a dot operator. Like we know in matplotlib you're mostly going to use pyplot. So import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. So we took the package, we got the exact sub package that we wanted to be, and improved it as gave us an alias of plt. Now matplotlib inline, I'll tell you what matplotlib inline is useful for in 5 to 10 minutes. But just to let you know, matplotlib inline only works in Jupyter notebooks. If you're trying to use it in Spider or VS Code or any other IDE, it's not gonna work. It's only for Jupyter notebooks, and it doesn't even do any big thing. It's just making your work a bit similar, bit simpler. Now, what we did, import matplotlib pyplot as plt, and this line I'll tell you later. Now, to plot a graph, we need the data. So what we did, we imported the NumPy package. So we import NumPy as NP. Now what we are doing, we're just creating two arrays, x and y. We can see x is equal to np.arrange 1 to 10, y is equal to np.arrange 11 to 21. So as you all know, np.arrange does what? It's just going to give you an array ranging from 0 to 10, and np.arrange 11 to 21 will give you an array ranging from 11 to 21. So if I'll execute this function, so you can see that it takes a bit of time to call the library of matplotlib, because most of the libraries which are big, it will take like 10 seconds or something to call the library and install it, make it ready, make it use ready into your RAM. Now we use NumPy, and now we executed this line. So x has an array of 0 to 10, y has an array of 11 to 21. Now what we can do, you can ignore this thing for now. Well, tell you why we have made this, but even this is n is equal to np.arrange 40 to 50, b is equal to np.arrange 50 to 60. So a has a array of 40 to 50, b has an array of 50 to 60. Simple. Okay. Now to plot the graphs. So now there are different graphs that you can plot in matplotlib. First of which is a scatter plot. So scatter plot does what? Just gonna take the each and every point that you're providing, like you'll provide the x-axis and y-axis of the point, and it's gonna plot you in the graph. As you can see, just gonna take the points and plot it into a graph as compared to the x-axis and y-axis. So how to make it? Now, for that, we have to write plt.scatter. Now plt is the alias that we have given for this particular library dot scatter. Now scatter does what? Scatter is gonna plot this scatter plot. It takes three inputs, like three basic ones: A, B, C. Now A stands for the x-axis, Y stands for the y-axis, B stands for the y-axis, and C stands for the color that you want your graph to be. Now, if you're providing if you don't even provide the color, like we are not providing the color, it's still gonna work. And again, if you'll see, if you're plotting any graph, it's gonna take like 2 seconds or 3 seconds to like populate the graph, because plotting the graph, it's kind of a hard task to do as compared to any of the other stuff. So now we can see scatter plot. It does what? It just plotted a graph using the data that you provided. Now you can see np.arrange we have given 40 to 50, and B we have given 50 to 60. So these both have 10 values. I'll just show you what exactly A and B are. I'll just print A. I'll just print B. You can see A is this thing and B is this thing. So A has 40, 41, 42, this. B has 50, 50, and 52, this. So now, to make the XY graph, what the graph did, we provided what? X as A and Y is B. Now, what we got? An XY points with combination of X1, like A1, B1, A2, B2, A3, B3. We got this combination. Like the first point is 40 to 50. So we can see the first point is 40 to 50. Second point is 41 to 51. So the second point will be somewhere in 41 to 51. Third point will be 42 to 52. The third point is 42 to 52. So this is what we got in x-axis in the graph. Now, we do not have to take care of the axis, like what all numbers which is going to be present here, because Matplotlib will automatically take care of what is the scale and how much axis should be visible to make your whole graph visible. So you do not have to take care of like what exactly should be written here. You don't have to take care of that. Now, if you don't write this also, you can just also write plt.scatter. Just gonna show you a graph, no problem at all. But just to make a graph more informative, like what is x-axis, what is y-axis, like what is the name of the graph, we use some attributes, which is x label, y label, and title. So x label stands for if you want to provide the name for the x-axis. So we can give anything for the x-axis name here. If you want to give the name for the y-axis, we provide it with the function y label. And if you want to provide the title of the graph, like what is the exact title of the graph is, so we can provide it using the function plt.title. As you can see here, if I execute this function, if you haven't executed this 3 lines, the scatter plot just give you the plot without even giving the name or any x-axis name or a y-axis name. But when we use it and show it, we can have the x-axis name as x-axis, y-axis name as y-axis, and the main graph name is my graph. Now, okay, now there's something called plt.show. So what is the work of plt.show? plt.scatter and plt.xlabel, like y label, or any function of the PL of any PyPlot, what it will do, it is going to make a graph, plot the data inside the graph, but it will not show on your screen. It's just going to keep it inside the RAM. It's not going to just populate you inside on the screen. So to show it, like to show the graph which has been populated or which has been created, to show it on the screen, we have to use this function plt.show. So plt.show, you will like see each and everywhere. But if you don't want to write this particular plt.show, what we do is we write matplotlib inline. So what matplotlib inline does it is just a magic function. Like then if any function which stands for a percentage sign is known as inline magic functions. So matplotlib inline does what? It's just a magic function which just exclude the sorry. So it's just gonna make the work of plt.show. So even if you don't write plt.show, it's just gonna create the graph. As you can see, matplotlib inline is mentioned in my code. So even if I'll not write plt.show here, the graph will be printed. As you can see, the graph will be printed. Now, this thing only works in Jupyter. If you're using any other code like Spider, VS Code, or PyCharm, or anything, you do not have this particular function which is matplotlib inline. You have to use that plt.show. plt.show has to be there in order to show the graph, because if you'll not do it, you'll only get one line. Just imagine you forgot, like how to get to know that you forgot the line. If you'll use any other code, like any other ID, and you just gave each and everything, and you haven't written plt.show, what you'll get is only this thing. You just have a single line providing what is the x-axis, what is the y-axis, and what is the name of the graph. That's it. You're not gonna print the graph. So if you'll get any output like this in your VS, in any of the other ID, just get to know that you just missed a line, which is plt.show. If you will use a plt.show, the line will go off and the graph will be present there. Now, understood about the scatter plot? Now, what we can do, instead of a scatter plot, we can just give an exact pie plot. A pie plot is like a line plot or something like that. It's just called as a plot or a line plot or a pie plot, whatever you want to say it. Now, what line plot will do, instead of giving them exact scatter plots, it's just gonna make a line on top of it, like a straight line or a curve line or whatever line that you want it to be. Now, what we did is we made a function y is equal to x square, like as simple as that. We can see y is equal to x into x. It means y is equal to x square. So print that graph, what we did, we did dot plot. We provide the value of x. We provide the value of y. We can see we have given the value of x and y here. So value of x is provided, value of y is provided. Now, even if you'll not give all these lines, it's still gonna work. I'll tell you what exactly they are. Now, as you can see now, and just remove this also, at least for now. Okay, now you can see. Okay, remove this. We're not even using this particular thing right now. Let it be there. I'll explain you like when we use the x square. Now, x and y, we used x and y, this one, 1 to 10 and 11 to 21. So you can see the graph 1 to 10 for x and 11 to 21 for the y-axis. Now, even if you haven't provided anything, the plot has been created. Now, if you want to make some changes, like make it look good, what we do, we provided some attributes. Now, the third attribute is we can provide the color. If we'll just remove this, we can provide the exact color, like what color our line should look like. Red, blue, green, or whatever. If we are providing R, it means red. So if we execute this, we can see red. If it's G, it's green. If it's B, it's gonna be blue. Okay. Now, if you forgot like which all color is available, just go to the starting of the function, press Shift Tab. By the way, it only works in Jupyter. Press Shift Tab. Just see what all colors can be available here. We can just go down. Basically, Shift Tab will just gonna give you a whole documentation of the function, like what all you can do in that proper function. You'll go down, you'll go down, you'll go down. Where is the color? You'll find the color somewhere. Okay, so these are the markers that you can put on. These are the types of lines that you can make. These are the proper colors that you can make, like blue markers. Okay, these are the colors that you can apply on, like blue, green, red, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and white. So these are the colors that has been allowed for this particular function. If you're gonna try any other color out of this, it's not gonna allow you. So if you feel like you're stuck in a proper any particular function, just go and read this documentation. Now this looks like a small, like a simple line. Now to make it look more better. Now instead of making a straight line, what we can do, we can make it a dotted line. So what we provide the name of the color which we want it to be and a double dash. It means make it a blue line with a double dash symbol. So we can see if you provide double dash, it's a double dash line. If you want to make a not even a double dash line, we want to make a single dash line. It's going to be a single dash line. A single dash line is a straight line. If you don't want to make a single dash line, you want to make a dot, it will make you a dot. And a dot is a scatter plot. Now there's so many stuff that you can do in this particular thing. Now remove this for now at least. If you want to provide a star mark, you can see instead of making dots, it just made you a star. And you just were there's chances in which you want to see the stars, but you also want to see the lines. Like you want the plot, like you want to know the exact point of the graph and want to see the line also, like both of them combined. What we can do, we keep the star here and we provide the line. So you can see the line and the stars both are here. What we did, we provide the marker. I'll tell you what marker is, and we provide the way of type of the line. So it means what? It's gonna keep both of them. Now we'll bring back all the things that you have deleted. Now there are some attributes, like some properties which you can specify. Line style. So line style has different properties which I've shown you here. If you just expand here and go down, go down, go down, go down, go down, go down. Okay. Okay. So line style, you can have solid line, dash dot, dotted. So many stuffs are there which you can do. Just imagine we made a dotted line. Let's copy C. Line style, instead of solid, we want to make it a dotted line. Okay, so it's not allowing a dotted line, and why? Because the thing that we provided here, where the graph went, is this. We cannot show this here. What happened? Let's see. Was there dotted line is not a valid for ls. Supported values are this much. So you'll find this proper error that for list you cannot provide a dotted line. So what all are available? A single line, double dash, a single dash or dot, or a colon, or none, whatever you can write. We cannot write a dotted line. Or if you want to make a dotted one, let's copy this. Give it here. So we can get a dotted line here. Now, if you will write, let me see if anyone is texting. Okay. So if you'll write any other stuff which is not allowed in the attributes, it's gonna give you an error, and at the last of the line, you'll get to know like which one all the things are allowed. Like for previously, I have written here dotted line. You can see dotted line is I have written dotted line, which is not a valid parameter. So we can see at the end of the line that dotted line is not a valid value for the parameter. So the supported are these things. So even if you just did a spelling mistake and you got an error, go to the last, read the error, you'll get to know that which things are allowed and what exactly you did mistake. Now just remove this dotted line here. Execute this dotted line. Now line width, as the name suggests, bigger the line width, the bigger the width of the line is. If the name suggests the exact thing. Now if we make the line width a bit thicker, we can see as the number increases, the width of the line also increases. Now marker size. Marker size is the exact marker that you're providing. You can imagine we provided star. So these are the markers that you can see. Now instead of dotted, just keep it. Instead of dotted, like keep it solid. So I can show you one exact thing. Now we can see marker size is 10 and line width is 5. And the marker size both as 10. You cannot see the graph. You cannot see the stars. Or I guess you can see a bit of, like imagine we increase it a bit more. You cannot see the graph or the marker because the marker size is smaller as compared to the line width. So it doesn't mean that the marker is not there. It's there. It's just been overshadowed by the line width. So if you're going to use the marker and the line both, make sure that your line width is smaller than the marker size. So make a line width 5 and like not even 5. Make this thing as a bit big. Make it a bit bigger. So you can see the line has been created with a marker which is visible. Now this is what we call a plot. Now, okay, what we can do with matplotlib is there can be situations in which in a single sheet, like in a single output, you want to show more than one graph. Even that's possible. So for that, we have an option which is known as subplot. So you can see this is a single output, but for a single output also we have 4 different graphs. And how to set this proper 4 different graphs? We'll use a proper function which is known as subplot. Now what subplot will take? Subplot will take you the number of rows, the number of columns, and the exact position on which the graph has to be placed. Now we can see there are 4 graphs, which means there are 4 subplots. You can see subplot 1, subplot 2, subplot 3, and subplot 4. So each and every subplot is providing a separate graph. Now we provided what? 2 rows, 2 columns. It means the whole canvas that you're going to print on will be divided into 2 rows and 2 columns. You can see 2 rows and 2 columns are here. Now the third one, or the third input you provide, will be the exact position of the plot which you want to print. Now this follows a row major style. It means if you're providing 2 rows and 2 columns, so it makes like what, a row, like this particular table with 2 rows and 2 columns. 1 stands for this particular position, 2 is for this particular position, 3 for this one, 4 for this one. If you make 2 rows and 3 columns, so the number will go for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it follows a row major style of numbering. So what we did, plt.subplot, 2 rows and 2 columns, and the first position. For the first position, what we did, we provided the xy graph, and we provided the data, make it a color R with the stand with the marker a star and straight lines. Now we specified the next graph. So for specifying each and every graph, just evoke that graph specification. You have to write plt.subplot to make sure that the graph it's been printed on the place that you want it to be. So to print this graph, as you can see, this graph has been defined with this particular line. Above that, we provided a subplot and exact position. You can see 2 rows and 2 columns. It's going to be similar for each and every subplot, 2 rows and 2 columns. The only thing that is going to change is the last, which is the position of the graph. So this is the second position. For the second position, we have a plot x and y, the same graph, but it's going to be in blue color and a single solid line. For the third graph, we have green color with a caret symbol as the marker and a straight line. For the fourth plot, we have a straight line with yellow color. So if you execute the whole graph, like whole project like the, what is this? Okay. So if you're going to execute this code, you're going to get all your lines. Now, if you want to see like changes happening, if you want to like change this particular graph, like imagine we have to change this particular graph and provide it with any kind of marker. We provide the yellow color and the marker has been like, it's a 0 or let's see. Okay, so the last graph has been changed. So if you'll make changes in any of the separate graph, it's not going to affect any other graph which is there in the subplot. Every graph in the subplot works separately. It's just gonna print together. So if you want to change this, remove it. If you want to make the marker of the third graph to be star, change it. It's just going to affect on the graph that you're providing the data to, not any other ones. So they are mutually exclusive, but they just print together. That's it. And again, if I'll just to remind you, I'm not using plt.show here because I have this matplotlib inline function available. If you're using in Spider error or any other library or any other ID, you have to write plt.show. Now, till now we have only made straight lines. Now make some function kind of lines. Now we make an array np.arrange 1 to 11. So x has a value from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 till 10. Now we make a function y is equal to 3x square plus 5. As you can see, the proper function 3x square plus 5. So for each and every value of x, this proper function or value of y will be present in the value y. Now what we can do, we give the title, we give the x value y label, and we plotted the graph with x and y. So we can see a curve graph because it's, you can see 3x square plus 5, which means it's a quadratic equation. So x is equal to y is equal to x square equation. So it's going to be a curve graph. Now if you will just change some values here, you can see the difference in the graph. If I'll make x cube, like make it x cube. Sorry. The graph is more steeper. If you'll just remove this remove this also. So the graph is more steeper. So it depends on what exact data you're providing, it's gonna change. So this is as simple, and there's not necessary that you have to follow this order only, that you have to show the plot first and then title and x label. You can do exactly anyhow you want it to be. You can make the title first, x label first, or you can, if I'll just define, if I'll just take this 2 lines and define it before the title, it's still not gonna get, what happened? Sorry. Okay. So okay. So even if I remove this line from here, it's not going to affect anyhow. It's gonna be the same. Keep it here. Nothing's gonna happen. Sorry, no indentation. Problem of Python. Indentation should be proper. We'll just exclude the graph. We'll put the plot here. Still the same. Nothing's gonna happen. So this is what. Now, any questions? No. Now we'll come for more complex graph that you can print. Now NumPy has a function, like not a function, a constant number, a constant variable that you can see, which represents the number pi. So if you'll write np.pi, it will return you the value of pi, an approximate value of pi, which is 3.14 something something something. So this is what the number is. Now if you want to make a sine wave graph, what we can do? What we did is we made the value of x from 0 to 4 pi. As you can now you can see we are working on radians. So from 0 till 4 pi, and the step size is 0.1. So what we are giving from 0, make it like 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and go till 4 pi. If imagine we gave it only 1, fine. We gave only 1, and for each and every value of x, we try to find the cos of that particular value of x, and we saved it in y. So NP has one more function which is known as cos, which will give you the cosine value of any input that you provide. NP has, like NumPy has even cos, sine, cosine, every trigonometrical value that you want it to be, it's predefined in NumPy. So we are currently using on cos. We'll go for sine also. So we can see for each and every value of x, we got a cos value of x and saved it in y, and we plotted using plt.plot. So you can see this is kind of a sine wave, but it's a bit broken because we made our steps way too big. So for like the value has been got for what, x1, we got x for x2, we got for x3, we got for x4, x5, x6. So we have bigger steps. So to make the graph more proper, we can reduce the number of steps. Reduce the number of steps that you're taking. Make it 0.5. So now the numbers will be 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5. If you execute it, now the graph is looking more like a curve. Now to make it more accurate, we make it 0.1. So the number that you're getting is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So each and every value of x will getting his y value. So that's why the output that they're printing is very close, like the points that they're printing is very close to each other. So that's why we can see a proper sine wave. So this is what you can do with Matplotlib. Now we can do one more thing. As I've shown you with cos, we can do with sine also, and we'll also try to implement the subplot here. Now what we did, we created np.arrange 0 till 5th of 5 pi, 4 pi, it depends on till whatever you want your graph to go. If you keep to like pi only, it's gonna create like 1/5 of it. If you're gonna get 5 pi, it's gonna create more. Now from x, we created the number from 0 to 5 pi and steps of 0.1, and we created two lists, which is a y sine and y cos. So for each and every value of x, we are finding its sine value and cosine value and saving it into the values x sine and y sine and y cos. Now we made a subplot. Now what we want 2 rows, single column. So we provided in the subplot 2 rows, single column, and the first place will be x and y sine. It means we're providing the sine function to be printed. And how we're printing it? Red color with dotted lines, and the title we have given is sine. So we can see this proper sine graph is printed. For the second graph, what we're providing the same thing, 2 rows, first column, 1 column, and the second position has been plotted with x, y cos. It means we're providing the cosine function. And how we're printing it? With green color and double dashed line, and we give a title as cosine. So we can see two graphs are here. First is the sine function, second is the cosine function. If you want to change the color of the cosine function or whatever, the color has been changed. As simple. So this is what all you can do with sine and cosine. Now there are like more type of graphs that you can plot with matplotlib. It's not limited with only line charts. We can create a bar plot. So I guess all of you know about bar plot, what bar plot is. So for each and every value, it's going to show you the frequency. So now imagine x has value 2, 8, 10, y has value 11, 9, 11, 16, 9. X2 has 3, say 3, 9, 11, y2 has 6, 15, like they're random numbers. Now what we did is plt.bar x and y. So plt.bar x and y. So this is proper x and this is proper y. So for 2 we got a value of 11. You can see for 2 we got a value of 11. For 8 we got a value of 16. For 8 we got a value of 16. Now what we can do with bar chart is we can, as you can see, we have written plt.bar for the bar chart. Now we can see plt.bar has been written twice and show has been written only once. It means what it will do, if you'll write more number of times the same thing, like plt.bar, 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 and you're providing different values, you're just gonna keep each and every data into the same graph only. So if you want to separate it, like plt dot, like show the graph before, like populating another graph. Let me show the graph before only. So now you can see there are two different graphs. For the first graph, we are providing only x and y. So 2, 11, 8, 16, 10, 9. So we can see 2, 11, 8, 16, and 10, 9 has been plotted. For the second graph, which is x2 and y2, 3, 6, 9, 15, 11, 7. So 3, 6, 9, 15, and 11, 7 has been populated with a color G. So you can provide the color. And if you want to see what all properties that you can provide, just go to the end of the bar, press Shift Tab. You'll get to know what all things that you can provide. You can provide X, height, width, bottom, align, data, whatever that you want to provide. And what exactly the things do, you can have the whole documentation available in Jupyter. That's why I always suggest you to go for Jupyter, because it has one of the best documentation. You do not have to go on internet and search for the documentation. It's everything is visible here. You'll also got so many examples present here. So go for Jupyter. Now for the second bar graph, we provided x2 and y2. So x2 and y2 has been printed. And for the second bar graph, as you can see, for the first bar graph, we haven't provided any name or any x-axis and x-axis or y-axis. For the second bar graph, we provided the title, x-axis and y-axis. For the second bar graph, x-axis, y-axis, and the title has been provided. Now, what previously it was done, like we haven't showed the bar graph. We haven't shown the bar graph before plotting another bar graph. So what that thing happened, both the bar graph has been plotted into the same picture. So even if we'll remove this, what will happen if you're removing it? It's not going to show the bar graph. It's just going to keep the bar graph inside your RAM. And now again, if you're calling the bar graph and putting another value inside that, just going to put the data into that same bar graph that you have been populated with the first line. It's not going to make another bar graph for you. It's going to populate it each and every time on the same canvas that you're providing. So if we'll execute this without showing the first bar graph, both of the bar graph has been combined into a single bar graph. And if I'll remove the color, because the default color is blue, if I'll remove the color, you can see it will not show you the same color. So what the default setting of default setting of bar plot is, for each and every bar that you will write, like each and every time you write the function bar, it will randomly collect a color and provide you with the data, like provide you with the visualization. So you can see the first time it's going to be blue, second time it's going to be yellow. If you write any third line, it's going to be something else. If you don't want to depend upon this proper function for your bar graph, like depend upon the color for your object, you can just write, sorry, not this thing. Okay, so you can exactly specify which color that you want. Again, if you want to know which color exactly you are available, like it's available to use, go to the documentation, search for it, you'll get to know which colors are available. So currently you're providing green color. So for the second, you got a green color. If you can go it for blue, fine enough, not capital B. Even though it works, it's not suggested to use capital ones. So blue. So it's gonna work with bar graph. Now histogram. Histogram gives you the frequency of a bin. As you can see, A has been an array of 21 something 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 random numbers are there. Now to plot a histogram, we use the function hist and we provide the data. Now what exactly histogram gives you? It gives you the occurrences of a number in a particular bin. So you can see from 0 till 20 how many numbers are existing. So you can see from 0 to 20 which all numbers are there. 21 not between 0 to 20, 1 is there. Like you can see so many number of times 1 exists. So you can see for the proper histogram, the spike between 0 to 20 is really high. And you can see in the histogram from 60 till, I guess if you'll consider this as 70. So from 60 to 70, you will have no number existing. Like you can see, there is no graph in between 60 to 70. It means in the whole array, there is no number in between 60 to 70. Like if you try to find out, you'll got even no number between 60 to 70. So that's how a histogram works. I guess you know exactly how a histogram works. So if you want to show a histogram, this is how you just write the function hist. If you want to show a bar graph, you have to write bar. If you want to show a plot, if you have to write plot. If you want to show a scatter one, just write. Sorry, where is it? Just write. Plot is plot only. If you want to show a scatter, scatter. Now the last thing that's left. That's the last thing. Now box plot. Box plot is not a usual thing that you have came across in mathematics or something. Box plot is mostly used for your machine learning stuff to know exactly what kind of data that you're dealing with. So if you use the word box plot, you can see data has been a random normal. Ignore this line exactly for what I've written. Just to populate the data, I've written this proper line. If I'll try to explain it. So the random.normal, as you know, if I'll write random.normal, normal distribution data that you will get, standard normal distribution, which I've explained you, from 0 till std, which is an variable that I've created. How many number of times? 100 numbers that you want, like 100 random numbers that you want. And for std, we made a function for std in range 1 to 4. So we are getting a random number from 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, and 0 to 4. For each and every value of std, we are getting 100 different numbers. So if I'll show you the exact data, we can see data is an array, a double dimension array, which has first array for 0 to 1 data. As you can see, standard std it ranges in 1 to 4. So it has the data 1, 2, and 3. So array is this one for 1, this is for 2, and this for 3. Okay. Now what will what will the data provided by the box plot? So box plot gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items, which you can guess to know with box plot. The minimum value, as you can see, the box plot has been visible. Now what exactly this box plot tells you? The lowest line will give you the minimum value. If you start this box, so the starting of the box will give you the 25th percentile. Center of the line will give you the 50th percentile. Ending of the box will give you the 75th percentile, and end of the line will give you the maximum distance. So I guess I have explained you about df.describe. Df.describe, it gives you min, maximum, 25, 50, and 75th percentile. So if you want to show that particular attributes into a box plot, like into any graph, you use box plot. Box plot gives you the exact same thing. Now you can see here there is a small dot. So the small dot stands for outlier. So if you're getting any random values, there are probability that you get any outlier which is not inside the standard distribution that you want it to be. Or if you're going to work on like real world data, there are chances that you'll get some random outliers which is not related to your data, or like the information that this particular data is providing, it's completely outlying. Like it cannot be possible, but they are there. So if you can see, if you like plot a box plot, if you'll see small dot, it means these are the outliers of your data. Now there are two proper attributes that you can change: vertical and patch artist. If you remove vertical is equal to true to false, you're just gonna rotate your box plot to a horizontal line. So we can see vertical true means it's gonna give you vertical box plot. If it's vertical is given false, it's going to give you horizontal. Now patch artist gives you the colors. So if you'll remove the patch artist, let's remove the whole patch artist only. Simple, no color at all. It's going to be a simple box. If you want to give them some color, make it as a pie chart is so it can gives you some visually good looking colors. So this is what Matplotlib box plot works. What is the difference between a subplot and multiple plots? Okay, the subplot is you're providing, let me show you the thing here. So this particular is a subplot. So it's exactly one canvas in which four graphs are printed. If you try to save the image, like you can literally just right click and save the image. All the four plots will be saved. It's like imagining a same picture in which four plots are plotted. Multiple plots are like you're giving different plots. Like what I've done here. Let me show you this one. This example here. tlt.show. So these are two different graphs. If you try to save one, it's not going to save the other one. They are not on the same canvas. This is a different picture and this one is a different picture. You can see if I can drag this proper picture outside, you can drag this picture. It means these two are different pictures. But in a subplot, all the four pictures are similar. They are exactly on the same canvas. I guess you got to know what is the difference between subplot and a multiple plots. Now, box plot has been done. The last topic will be pie chart. The pie chart is one of the most good looking chart and one of the most informative charts that you can see. Now we got to make a pie chart, use the proper function pie. So pie takes some attributes, which is sizes. Sizes defines what exactly data that you're providing. Explode tells you like for each data you want it to be away from the center. Labels, the exact name that you want. Colors are the exact colors that you want. Now let's go through each and every one of them one by one. So sizes defines what exact data that you're providing for the box for the pie chart. So for size, what we did, we gave 215, 130, 245, 210. Now what pie chart does is whatever sizes that you're providing, it's just gonna make a total of it, like make a sum of it, and find out what is the percentage of this first attribute compared to the whole sum. As you can see, if you try to add everyone like 215, 130, 5, 10, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7. It's gonna be somewhere around 800. Yeah, it's gonna be 800. So the total is 800. So it will find out what is the percentage of 215 if 800 is the total mark. So it means what? 205 by 800 into 100. So it's gonna provide the percentage of that particular data. The same thing is going to happen with 130. Same thing will happen with 245. Same thing will happen with 210. So we provided the data. Pie chart will do what? What pie chart will do? Make a total of it and try to find out what is the percentage of each and every attribute compared to the whole sum, and it's gonna show it. Now labels. Label stands for each and every attribute. What's the name? What is the label of it? So make sure that you're providing the same number of sizes and same number of labels. If you have 5 sizes, like we have 4 sizes, provide 4 labels only. Like for 215 Python, 130 it's C++, 245 it's Ruby, 210 it's Java. So you do not have to explicitly mention that 215 is Python, 130 is C++. It's going to take it automatically. The order in which you get the sizes and the labels in the same order, it will consider, and it will match, it will map the labels and the sizes together. So it's labels of 0 will match to the size of 0. Labels of 1 will match to the size of 1. So similarly, it's gonna match each and every attribute of the labels to the sizes. Now, provide the colors. So for each and every sizes, you can provide the colors also. Make sure they all are in same sizes. Like if this is 4, this has to be 4, and colors has to be 4. If you remove anything, it's not gonna print it properly. Now explode. Explode tells you how far it's gonna, like how far your pie is gonna be from the center. Just imagine we remove everything, every explode to be 0. Now we can see everything is exactly inside the circle. Now we want this first graph Python to be a bit off from the center. So what we can do, we just provide a small explode of 0.5. So we can see the center, like the pie of Python has been exploded from the center. You can provide different kind of explode for values for different functions. So imagine for C++ we provide 0.3, for Ruby we provide 0.6. So you can see each and every slice has been exploded out of the center. It doesn't look always good. So remove the explodes. everything is 0, so everything is going to be in center. So this is what explode does is. So we provide the sizes, we provide the explode, we provide the labels, we provide the colors. Now auto PCT specifies what exact data type you want it to be printed on. If you can get what either a either a decimal number as a output or a floating number. You can see there's 26%, 26%, 30%, 16%. It's not exactly accurate. It can be in floating values. So for floating values, we have to write what 1%. We have to remember this thing, percentage 1.1. Instead of D, we have to write F and double percentage sign. So what it will do, it's gonna give you the floating values of the percentage to 26.9, 26.2, 30.6, 16.2. For decimal, what you have to write, remove the 0, 1.1. Instead of F, write D, which is decimal, execute. So we can see these are in decimal values. Shadow is equal to true shows you just the shadow of the pie chart. If you remove the shadow true, like remove it already, you can remove it, or you can just write false. A simple pie chart, no shadow at all. If you remove it and make it true, you can see a small shadow which has been applied by the pie chart. So its shadow is only useful like making your data look more good. So again, PL.access is equal to equal. Access equal stands for we're gonna have the same equal access for the pie chart. We cannot like change the accesses. We can provide the access to be a 90 degree or like starting from the 100 degree. It's gonna be equal. So we took it at center and we created the chart. Do not have to consider what the access is because you're not gonna use access anytime unless and until you have to. If anyone just exactly specifies you that started from this particular angle only, like started from 30 degree only or started from 60 degree only, you're not going to use access. Now again, if you'll remove plt.show also, it's going to show me the data. It's going to show me the output. But it's not going to work if you're using in any other ID. So for if any other ID is there, plt.show is necessary. So I'll suggest you to write plt.show each and every time, even if you're using Jupyter, just write plt.show. It's a good habit so that you'll not miss this plt.show if you're forced to use any other ID. You'll not just miss this particular line. So this is all about matplotlib. There are different functions that you can use in matplotlib, but the one thing is I'll not suggest you to go through matplotlib so deeply because tomorrow we are going to learn about Seaborn, and whatever you can do in matplotlib is possible in Seaborn, and Seaborn also provides you some extra options or extra formatting options. So you can go and deep dive into Seaborn. I'll not suggest you to go exactly deep diving on matplotlib, but just to let you know that even this library exists and you can do the stuff in matplotlib also. Seaborn is more functional, gives you more functionality. So if it gives you more functionality, the syntax, like remembering the syntax of Seaborn is a bit compared to matplotlib is a bit difficult. Like you can see matplotlib has has a syntax like if you want to write a pie chart, like plt.py. Want to make a graph chart, histo chart, write plt.hist. Where's this chart? Like plt.hist. Want to make a plot only, plt.plot. Want to make a scatter, plt.scatter. So it's not as similar in Seaborn. You have to like specify one or two more stuff, but it gives you more functionalities. So this is the end of this particular session. If you have any doubts, you can ask another question or turn on your microphones and ask. Can explain again numbers inside the bracket of subplot. Subplot. Okay. Where is subplot? Where is subplot? Where is subplot? Okay, here is subplot. So what subplot does is the basic functionality of subplot is to print different or like more than one plots into a single canvas. As you can see, the output is a single picture with different subplots. So for that, we have to specify how many numbers of subplots has to be present there. For specifying that, we just imagine that the subplots has been it's gonna be imposed on a table, because if we know like we have five, or like imagine we have 6 graphs that you want to provide in a single subplot. We know if it's 6, it's gonna be like 1, 2, 3, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We just know how exactly we want to show it. So for that, we have to specify what number of rows and what number of columns should be present to display the subplots. So this time we provided what? We have 4 graphs. So we provided 2 rows, 2 columns. You can see 2 rows and 2 columns. And this third input will be where exactly in that particular 2 rows and 2 columns you want your first plot to be. So the subplot has 2 rows, 2 columns, and the first position will be acquired by this particular plot, which is XY and red star. You can see first position has been acquired by a red star graph. For the 2 rows and 2 columns, you can see if you're making a subplot, the first 2 attributes going to be always similar, 2 rows and 2 columns, because you're just providing the exact 2 rows and 2 columns. You cannot change it. The only thing that you change is the last one, which is the position. So 2 rows and 2 columns, the second position will be taken care by the second graph, which is B dash. You can see the B dash. The third position will be taken care by G star. You can see the G star here. So fourth position, which is here, taken care by Y dash. So you can see the Y line chart here. This is what exactly a subplot and their syntax is. I guess you understood about this. If you want to change the range of Y axis, like how you want to change the range of Y axis, I didn't understand. Cool. So Ronnie, can you just explain like exactly what exactly you want to change? Box plot. Okay, I'll explain you box plot after answering this one. Okay, like it's showing the gap of 2, we want to specify the axis exactly according to your demand. Okay, this is not exactly present in Matplotlib. It's present in Seaborn. Like I don't even exactly remember that it's present in Matplotlib or not. It's present in Seaborn. You can exactly specify what is the grid that you want it to be. So tomorrow you'll get to know about Seaborn, because when you'll work on machine learning algorithms or any of the data visualization stuff, it's not, we are rarely going to use Matplotlib. You're mostly going to use for Seaborn. So tomorrow when you'll go for Seaborn, you'll get to know how you can exactly specify the axis of x-axis or y-axis. I'm not sure that any option of changing the axis is present in Matplotlib or not, because as similar, even I haven't went through Matplotlib so perfectly. So going through the axis of box plot. So box plot just gives you the information about the data, like what all set that you provide, like where is the box plot? What all set that you provide is provided a data, which is a random number with normal distribution. I told you about normal distribution, like average of 0, mean of 0, standard deviation 1, as similar. So we have a random data to provide the box plot. What we did, box plot, we provided the data. Vertical false will give you the horizontal verticality. Pitch artist will give you the color. Now what exactly box plots represent is the minimum, 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, and the max point. So you can see the starting of the graph, the starting line is the minimum graph. Like this is the minimum, like minimum number that you can get in the data. Third will be 25th percentile. So this will be 25th percentile. This will be 50th percentile. This is 75th percentile. This is maximum number. So for this particular, as you can see, standard of 0 STD. I guess this is the one question that you ask for. You want to know the for loop. So what exactly we keep in the for loop? We got a number, like for random what we give, starting and the ending. We don't know like what we want to make. We want to make a double dimension array. So what we did, we made a for loop. It's a continuous for loop, which you can implement for loops inside that also. So we provide a variable, and how this variable is changing for STD in range 1 to 4. So each and every time this proper for loop is running, the value of STD is changing from 1, 2, and 3. So as you can, the range is 0, 1 to 4. So it will go to 1, 2, and 3. That's why we have 3 different graphs. As I've shown you the data is a double dimension array having 3 columns. So the first column will be when normally 0 to 1, and there are 100 values ranging from 0 to 1. You can see from 0 to 2. The numbers from -2 to -2. If it's gonna be range from 1 to 4, so the third number will be 0 to 3. So the third output will be 0 to 3, as similar. So we got a data which has 3 different arrays of 3 different ranges. For the first range, it's 0 to 1, second range 0 to 2, third range is 0 to 3. All the arrays have 100 numbers. So for each and every array, we got 3 different box plots. So this is how this proper for loop works. Don't like think that much about this proper for loop. You'll get to know how you use this proper for loop later. Like we can write this proper function differently also. Like for data 1, we can write std1. For data 2, we can explicitly write 0 to 1 for data 1, 0 to 2 for data 2. I just made it in a single line. It looks more complex, but it's just gonna do the same thing in a single line instead of writing 3 different lines. So this